would like to introduce us first before we dive into the content. So, ladies first, always there. So, Momima, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Momina. I'm a first year physiotherapy student at Fontys and I'm from England.
Thank you. And let's stick to England. Oh, no, sorry, Shane, don't want to insult you there.
Yeah, hi, I'm Shane. I'm 19. I'm from Ireland. This is my second year in Eindhoven, but it's my first year. I'm in first year at Fontys. So,
Yeah, great. And last but not least,
Hello, uh, I am Leonidas. I am from Greece, and I'm a first year student as well.
all right, thank you for that. Well, my name is Jure, as you can see on the bottom of the screen. Um, I would like to help you out with anything you would like to know this evening. So we've prepared a couple of slides, but maybe you also have some questions for us. I'm a full-time teacher at Fontys, and I became a teacher after I did, of course, physiotherapy and manual therapy. But before that, I also did the educational program to become a gymnastic teacher. So I've got some years of experience in the educational environment. I would really like to hear from you guys if there's anything unclear or if you have any questions which pop into your mind whenever you look at our presentation. Use the chat box for that, so you can click on the balloon for chat. We will keep an eye out for every question you have, and then as soon as they pop up and it comes at the right time, I will provide you with an answer, but hopefully our students can even provide you with the answers. So let's look at the first slide first, and then it might already occur to you that the number you see, 44,000 students, is pretty big. That's not all English stream students. So Fontys is a big education, a big university where we have a lot of different sites in different cities. So it's not just a campus of physiotherapy. We have a lot of different educational programs. So once you visit Fontys, you actually also have a big possibility to join other programs and to maybe sometimes also get some additional information from educational programs. Now, once we go into the Fontys University of Applied Sciences itself, I'm going to introduce you into our educational program with a short video. And then afterwards, we will give you some explanations on that. So hopefully this will work. And I will ask you, Momina, if you can also hear the sound, because otherwise I haven't shared the presentation right. Do you hear any sounds, Momina?
I can't hear anything.
All right, then it's only me. Then I'll stop sharing for a moment and then I'll share it again, but then with the sound. All right. How about now? All right,
Yeah,
What's
good.
it like studying at the Fontys University for allied health professions? Great that you're interested in our program. It means that you're eager to have a broader impact as a healthcare professional in the future. We want to show you what studying at Fontys looks like. One thing is certain, the future is in your hands. Getting started with professional challenges. It's important that from day one you gain experiences that are representative of the way you will work as a healthcare professional in the future. This means that you'll be taking on challenges during modules of 10 or 20 weeks. These challenges are taken from the professional field for which you are being trained. We call these professional challenges. Through the development of knowledge, skills, and a professional attitude, you will fulfill these challenges successfully. So what does studying look like? Learning is therefore linked to real-life issues that you work on together with others. You do this with your fellow students, lecturers, experts in the field, and clients. You are at the wheel of your own professional development, together with learning process supervisors who guide and support you throughout your journey. You do this by regularly gathering feedback so you can steer your learning process.
All right. Might be an interesting one because there's a lot of information already in this first video. Just to ask you a question about that, Momina. What's the thing that you recognize the most from this video? What came into your mind when you looked at it?
Well, the making the portfolio and getting the feedback part. That's a
Yeah.
big part of your journey at Fontys, I think.
Yeah, and how's that different from what you've experienced before?
Well, I'm just used to having standardized examinations and just learning things and being examined on those things. But I feel like at Fontys, you're not just constantly examined, you're kind of, you get to apply everything in real life scenarios, which I really like.
Yeah, yeah, good one there. And Leonidas, if I'm asking you and you're honest and you say, well, it wasn't that easy at the start, right?
Yeah. For me, it really wasn't, but I have to say that for my peers, with which one I've talked about our first module, pretty much we all have a similar experience, but in overall, we all had a different experience and a different approach to this style of studying, because it's really different than what we have been used to. And another thing that was really interesting to me was the fact that even though we were from different countries, so we were from all over around the world, we all had the same difference, and we were all studying in the same base of just reading and then having a final exam.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely recognize that. And it is a cultural shift for all of you guys to move over to the Netherlands and then also being introduced into a new profession, a new way of learning. We'll talk about that a bit more later on, but it's good to already realize yourself. And once you make this step, you step into a new world in multiple ways. And I think what Momina said, and Leonidas as well, it's a really fascinating one, but you do have to be aware of the fact that it's spot on from day one. So you can just lay back and say, well, let's see what happens for the upcoming 4 weeks, because then you're already far behind. And I
Yeah,
see
you
a
are.
big smile there, so somebody recognizes my talk. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a look at the location of Fontys, and I'm not going to pay too much attention to that because as soon as you come to Eindhoven, you will pretty much find out that everything is pretty close. I believe, Shane, you had some interesting thoughts on that when you compared it to Dublin. Can you share that with our listeners?
Yeah, I realized it soon enough as well, and then also when I had like sort of friends and family come over, everyone compared it to like a sort of smaller Dublin, sort of everything's sort of small and compact, and you need everything you need is in walking distance or a 5-10 minute cycle. So it's nice. It's a nice sort of environment to be in, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, good that you mentioned that. So for all Irish people, you already know by now, we invited Shane because he's also going to publish the Irish Pub later on, but that's not for now. We'll talk about Eindhoven a bit more in the upcoming slides. Now, just to give you a highlight of what Eindhoven actually, you're looking at the center right now, and the campsite over there is a 10-minute walk from the central station. If you don't really want to walk, which I would be surprised for if you're a physiotherapy student, but okay, we'll talk about that during your program. You can also take the bus. That is about 2 minutes. So overcoming distances there. I would like to show you a video of our architecture, and this is mainly made before the new campus was built, and that's not for that long. So we're only in the new building for a year right now, so it's actually all fresh and looks very nice, I have to say. So I'm going to show you a little video here. It's in Dutch with some Dutch translations, but you'll get the picture. There are mainly 3 buildings in which we have our educational program, but we belong to a greater campsite. right. Well, what you can see on this video is actually pretty alike the real thing. Wouldn't you say, Shane?
Yeah, it's all sort of it's mad to see how because the first year I was here we were just in the one building of the new three buildings. So it's cool to see like it all sort of actually come to fruition and actually sort of be in those buildings and walking around the campus.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I have to say we were pretty proud of that because it's a huge campus and there are lots of possibilities there with great new technology and some really cool classrooms. So I'm going to give you the dates later on, but I really invite you to come check it out for yourself because it's a really nice environment. Talking about Eindhoven, Momina, what's your experience with Eindhoven?
I really like Eindhoven. I feel like it reminds me a lot of home, which is Manchester. I feel like everything is really close by. I think it's a really good student city in general. So I think you guys will really enjoy Eindhoven. I'm not gonna lie.
And do you do everything by bike or do you walk or what do you?
I usually walk everywhere.
Yeah, yeah, it's good to. And Shane, if they want to visit the Irish pub, what time should they be there to see you work?
Yeah, no, it is. It's sort of known with all the students in English Street. The Irish pub is the place to be. So every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Thursday nights are especially student nights in Eindhoven. So yeah, definitely get down to the Irish pub and have a few drinks at the end of the week, something to de-stress. Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, good, good. And Shane already told me because we had a meeting prior to this information setting where he said, well, I would really advise the students to come over and to really have a look, not only to drink a Guinness in the Irish pub, but also to meet new people. And we'll talk more about the accommodation later on, but that's a very important thing to get to know each other because having some good social contacts here might really help you out in that big step you're about to take when you come to Eindhoven in the Netherlands. There's a great possibility to do sports, and we always put that in because for around 10 euros a month, you do have to pay it at once, but for about 10 euros a month, you can do all kinds of sports. And I know there are all kinds of team also with players from different sports like Gaelic football, for example. I know there's a team going on around that. It's not a typical Dutch sport, but you can go for a swim, you can go to the gym, and they've got athletics. So there are lots of possibilities here, and it's a great way to get to know each other. So you will be able to find that on internet as well. But this is something where I see a lot of students matching, gathering, and having a great social time. Well, let me tell you a bit about physiotherapy itself, and then not about what the profession means, but more like what would physiotherapy be for you? So my question always is when students ask me, do you think physiotherapy is something I would become enthusiastic about? And then this is the graph I usually show. And then I ask them, all right, if you think this is something for you, then consider whether you like to motivate other people, whether you have what we call the empathic abilities, the empathic skills. Do you like to take care of others? Do you like to work with other people? Do you have a bit of an positive idea about lifestyle? Would you like to become an active student? Because you have to be aware that doing physiotherapy requires a lot of hands-on and hands-off practical skills. So we're not going to sit behind a computer the entire day. So there are lots of, well, I would say it characteristics that you could consider when you want to study physiotherapy. And I'm trying to be honest in this presentation, and that's why I also ask the students because I think that is the most valuable thing to hear from. Um, Physiotherapy is more than just sports. I see a lot of students coming in thinking, I want to do sports myself and I want to treat patients with sports injuries. but there's so much more in physiotherapy than just that small part of sports. So, Leonidas, what was your experience in Module 1 with physiotherapy? In which setting have you been?
Um, First of all, I would like to point out that it says the question is, does this appeal to you? So even if it does not exactly fit on you, you can always work on it, and you can work your fit in the program. For example, in my case, so in physiotherapy, you constantly need to be in contact with people, and for me, it's really hard. It's a bit awkward for me to be in contact with people, and that's something I'm currently working on. So you can always improve and find your fitting style in this program. Um, so for me, from the beginning of uh, the module one, uh, I have to say I was pretty much fascinated with the programs. Uh, I really enjoyed the lectures. It's a really nice experience. And other than the studies, it's a really unique experience getting to experience new things together and struggle through things together with the rest of your peers. Because what I mentioned previously, the fact that I really struggled to find my pace in that educational system, the same difficulty was part of many of my peers, so we had to struggle through that together. And I have to say, it's a really nice feeling to feel that you're fitting in a group and that you try with others.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, man. That's a nice one. And I think that's really what we mean by the community learning. So we're a bit of the internships and the field of physiotherapy here, but that's a really good example of how you need each other to fulfill this program. So even when you know that your communication is not that strong, or even when you struggle, like Leonidas says, with some contact there, it's a really valuable learning experience, and you can develop yourself. So you don't have to be top of the bill when you enter. There's a lot we can work on together. Um, Let's click on, because I have some more interesting stories. And most of students you see with us right now, they've just passed on module 1, or at least they're still waiting for the results. But they just had their first 10 weeks of physiotherapy. And actually the thing Leonidas describes is what we target as in module 1, where we try to really see whether you fit within the program of physiotherapy, but also where you get to know physiotherapy as a profession. So where can you possibly work? What kind of patients will you see? In which way do you have to develop yourself to become that empathic physiotherapist, or to become that hands-on skilled physiotherapist? So it's really an introduction module where you already see a lot and where you already experience a lot. And Momina, if I ask you, what is your greatest development throughout module 1?
I think module one was really interesting, especially attending FCHM sessions and seeing how different physiotherapists approach different situations. I also had the opportunity to do an internship at a football club, which was really nice. And I got to learn a lot of hands on and hands off skills. I had never done that in my life. And I did not expect to do it so soon in the year. But honestly, I enjoyed the whole process. I thought it was really fun. Um, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for sharing. Maybe to point out, Momina mentions the FCHM, that's the Fontys Center of Health and Movement. And it's actually a program we've designed to be in between full internships and the educational program. So it's the opportunity to see real patients under the guidance of teachers. So I usually call it my clinic, because it's a setting in which I see real patients, but I do that together with my students. So like Momina says, we give you the opportunity to see real patients immediately. And then, as you already noticed, you have a lot of freedom. So if you have the possibilities. If you go back, for example, for a week of holiday, then we strongly advise you to just do 1 or 2 days of internship in a local physiotherapy clinic, also to get some more feelings with the profession. I already saw that there was a question coming in the chat. I believe it was about the date. Yeah, Frederica already says, does the study start in August? It actually starts at the 1st of September always. So you've got some holiday time there in between. We'll get to another slide where we'll inform you a bit about what to do before you start. So we'll answer that question later on. As you might see on the slide, there are more themes every module. So we divide the first 2 years into 8 modules, and every module has a different title, and every module dives deeper into the content of physiotherapy and makes patients more complex and makes cases more complex, so that over time you will learn more knowledge, but you will also gain more skills and you will gain more expertise to work on these more complicated cases. So as you can see, after year 1, we'd like to call you the assistant physiotherapist, which means you had 40 weeks of an educational program in which we actually target you to become the assistant physiotherapist. And then you can see, as you move on to the educational program, that the year after will contain more information about research and will also provide you with more learning in the clinic. But before we look at that, Shane, could you give me an idea about what your daily schedule looks like, and maybe give us a short overview of your week, just to give our students or potential students an idea of your weekly rhythm?
Yeah, so I work from, I'm in college from Monday to Friday. Um, this module, I'm quite lucky. I don't have many early mornings. Most of my class start at about 11:30. Um, on a Monday they finish at 5:30. On a Tuesday they'll start at 11:30, finish at 2:30. On the Wednesday it's a off day, but we can use it to do FCHM or other internships or just other sort of opportunities to get a bit of study and work done. Thursday, today it was 11:30 till 2:30 again, and then on the Friday I do a 8:30 to 11:30. I try to sort of keep most of my working hours or times I work in between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. I don't like to bring sort of work into the evenings, because it's also important to have that balance along with having a good work routine. So I think after 5 o'clock, 5, I usually uh, start to shut down. And if I'm not shutting down, I'll be sitting on the couch or doing something small. But I try to really get my work finished by 5 o'clock, 5 most weekdays.
And how many hours of work do you have besides your school career?
So I work obviously. So we have the Wednesdays off. So I work most Wednesdays in O'Shea's, the Irish bar, which is I work about 7 to 8 hours, and then on the weekends, um, I'll usually work anywhere from 15 to 20 hours on Saturday and Sunday. So it's quite a full schedule, but it's I think if you like a full on sort of non-stop kind of routine, I think it's good.
Yeah, we'll see about that later on, because there are some statistics we would like to show you, and then the students will give you the real answer to whether our theoretical knowledge around that is correct. Leonidas, it's sometimes difficult, right, with all of the things that you have to do for both school and making a living as a independent student there.
It's doable. It's definitely not a walk in the park. It's not easy, but it's not something unachievable. Of course, it puts you under tension, but when you actually get to the results you want to get, it's really rewarding.
Yeah, I have to admit that I'm always Well, I don't think jealous is the good word, but I'm always fascinated by the English stream students because the things you do at your age, I wasn't ready yet. So I always see the difficulties that these students have by leaving their home country, by going over and starting all by themselves. And then I have to say, it's really nice to see how this community really takes care of each other and how you find each other's in the bar, but also how I see groups of students working together outside of these strict classes. So it's not just only the time you have with the teacher, it's also the time you just stay at campus where you learn together, where you play table tennis together, or you just chat together. So that's really a thing I like about the English stream community, because the Dutch students often go home directly after school, and the English stream students have their entire life around Eindhoven. So that really is a fascinating thing to see, and it's a great, well, I actually feel proud to be part of that community as well. So thanks for sharing that, guys. If we look into the third and fourth year, then you see it's no longer 10 weeks, but it's 20 weeks of educational program. And in the fourth year, you have what we call these challenges. Well, I'm not going to go into detail on that right now, but it's for you to be aware of the fact, and that's what my next slide will also be about. It's good for you to understand that we call that freedom, and you already heard Leonidas tell about the opportunities they have. You heard Momina tell you about the internship she did and the FCHM. You have the ability to color your own educational path. And I like to use the word coloring because you can make your choices and eventually receive the same diploma as your friend, but you have maybe done completely different things related to the profession of physiotherapy. So if you look at what we do in the profiling phase, that's the third and the fourth year, you have the opportunity to follow a minor, which doesn't necessarily have to be like manual therapy minor. You can also go for healthy behavior or do some nutrition specific minor. But once you stay into Fontys, you might also want to challenge yourself more in the behavior part, where you say, well, psychology is also a fascinating thing for me. I'm curious about that health behavior, so I'm going for that. You can also explore more technical ways. If you like to work with apps, if you like to know how all kinds of clinometrics work, or you like to maybe do some more technology into your program, then there's an opportunity for you to color your own pathway once you are at Fontys. And this is just an idea of how we work in the program to give you the ability to develop yourself. Maybe go back for that one first. Momina, do you have any idea about the path that you're going to take? Do you have any idea about what you would like to become besides regular physiotherapist?
I'm interested in two things right now, pediatric physiotherapy and cardiopulmonary physiotherapy as well. I think they're both really intriguing to me. So I'm hoping that through internships, I'm able to like figure out like where I want to go exactly. But right now, these are the two that are like interesting to me.
And I know what you're talking about, but can you explain what pediatric physiotherapy is?
Pediatric physiotherapy, I mean, it could depend on like different things, but you're mainly working with children. And then as for cardiopulmonary physiotherapy, it's usually people or patients dealing with, some people might come to you post surgery, like heart surgery, or people might have like COPD or like other issues, and they will come and you help them kind of like deal with that. They might have issues with their mobility because of these issues, so you help them essentially.
Yeah, yeah, very good, very good. I'm surprised how much you already know about that. So that's really good. You already did a lot of preparation for that, because this is a specialism of physiotherapy. So after your bachelor program, you can go for pediatrics, you can go for the cardiopulmonary that's more of a course, whereas the pediatric physiotherapy is really a master's program. But I have a slide on that which we will explain a bit more. This is usually the part where I'm always a bit laughing, because this is from a theoretical construct where we say, well, we develop an educational program and we think that this is how much our students should study. That's why I always like the students to be present here. Shane, how much hours of study do you think roughly you have in a week, including your scheduled classes?
Well, including my scheduled classes, I would say compared to last year, this year I'm a lot more on top of it. I'm a lot more organized. I'd say maybe after most days I'll hopefully want to get in about maybe an hour. That's obviously depending on when the class started and how long the class was and all that. But after like say the first 5 weeks or the first 4 weeks of the module, definitely you definitely see an increase in the amount of time you study. Not only just because of you feel a bit more pressure as the deadline comes along, but just more that especially for me anyway, I sort of tend to get in my own head and I start to do more work than I probably need to do, which it's kind of a good trait and kind of a not good trait. But yeah, I'd say around 13, 15 hours is near enough right, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Leonidas, you told me this afternoon that you sometimes do some preparations after work, so that requires some times in the evening. If you look at what you see on the screen right now, the blended learning and the learning process facilitator, you told me this afternoon. Well, I actually felt that the thing where you don't have to do the exam at the end anymore actually makes me aware of my behavior throughout the entire module. Can you
Yep.
can you tell the rest a bit more about that? What you do you experience?
Yeah, so for me, things move a bit slower, so it takes a bit more time for me to study. So in order for me to learn something, I need to first do the preparation of what I'm going to study, find the things that I am going to study, and then eventually start studying. So after the university, I have usually somewhere around 1.5 hour or 2 hours before going to work. So during that time, I get to cook, and at the same time, I just prepare what I'm going to study at night when I get back from work. Uh, I would say that process usually takes around 2 to 3 hours per day. Uh, at least that's what's working for me.
And is
Uh,
that something that makes you able to follow the entire module at the same pace, or do you still feel a lot of stress at the end of the module?
uh, it's the only way for me to follow the module, to be fair. But again, it's the only way for me because most of my peers don't really struggle that much to keep up. Uh, and they don't even spend that much time studying, but we all have our own pace. But yeah, I have to say that I'm really bad at memorizing things. And I think we had a chat regarding learning things by heart again. And I'm really bad at it. So I would say that uh, this way of studying really that blended learning, other than blending different types of learning, also makes you blend in the physiotherapy module as well. So regarding the professional attitude you need to require or the hands-on skills you mentioned previously, you start on module one with hands-on skills, and you need to work on your hands-on skills through the whole module.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
something that you need to work at the last time and then just you have the examinations. You need to keep working on that through the 10 weeks so it eventually becomes part of you.
Yeah, I think that's a good example of how we try to make you think about your study. And as you probably all know, learning something by heart in a short amount of time will make you forget things really fast. So what Leonidas also experiences, we're constantly trying to trigger you to learn, to show us something, to talk about the topic so that you keep on learning small parts, and then it's not a big pile at the end, but it's just something that you keep on repeating. And then it could also be that in week 4 we already tell you, well, that skill which eventually at the end of the model needs to be absolutely good is already on level. So you're already doing a good job there. So move on to something else. Try to focus on that part a bit more. So we're training you to continuously learn and not try to achieve something and forget it shortly afterwards. And I think that's the main topic which a lot of students have to struggle with in the first couple of weeks. But you get used to it, and the comments often are that students say, well, I'm actually achieving something really right now and I don't really forget it. The digital environment is an important thing to mention because if you look at that, the question about books doesn't have to be there. You can do everything online. We've got a great online library as well, and we've got lots of information to share with you via this digital environment. So there are no mandatory books. There, of course, there's a library at the campus where you can find books if you would like that. But overall, there are no mandatory books. I see a question from Peter coming in. How are the modules assessed? Is it project-based, exam-based, or both? Well, Momina, what did you experience this module? How would you describe that?
I think it's mostly project based. But then again, it's like we're still being tested because we have skills. We do those skills. We get feedback from experts, and if that feedback says that you're not on level, you ask another expert, and then you kind of. I feel like it's a process rather than doing an exam and then just getting results at the end. We don't have exams per se. I do feel like we are tested though still.
And then what's the final uh, product that you have to hand in at the end?
We have a portfolio, so everything, the whole journey of the 10 weeks, everything we've done so far, we put it in the portfolio and then it gets graded by a teacher.
Yeah. And this is a bit of an ideal picture, and that's why it's good that the students tell the real story as well. But as soon as they start learning, and that's what we see in year 3 and 4, the whole portfolio is not going to be a surprise. So in some situations, you will see that handing in a portfolio actually makes you doubt whether you've achieved the module, yes or no, because you're not really sure whether the content is sufficient. But as soon as you grow and you start collecting more evidence, you will hand in a portfolio and you already know that you did a good job. So it's not going to be a big surprise there. I already see that in my second years right now, they've done a full first year and they handed in their first module in year 2, and their portfolios are very good. They all did very good because they know how to study and they know how to get their validations and their experience throughout this 10-week program. So there are no final assessments at the end of the module. You do have to hand in a portfolio in which you objectify everything you've learned. So I hope that's an answer to your question, Peter, and otherwise feel free to raise your hand or to put something in the chat. In the meantime, I'll click on because I would like to share another bit of knowledge with you, and that's about what you can actually do after you graduated as a physio. So we already discussed pediatrics with Momina, and as you can see, there's also pelvic floor physiotherapy, there's sports physiotherapy, manual therapy, and these are all official master programs. So you can also do a university master study, that's physiotherapy sciences, if you would like to do research, if you would like to be the one who's going to improve the evidence-based practice of physiotherapy. But you will learn more about that as soon as you dive into the content of physiotherapy. And maybe you like those athletes that much that you're going to for this sports physiotherapy, but maybe you also like the elderly or the disabled, and you're going to work with these people later on. As you can see in the work field that you could work in after you've got your bachelor. So after your bachelor, you can already work. You can see settings like the hospital, you can see the primary care, which you can just work in a clinic, but you can also work in a rehabilitation center. And for those people who would really like to set up their own clinic, there are also some nice courses you can follow. So there are lots of possibilities, and to me, physiotherapy is really the basic. It's the bachelor, and you will find out that you have so much more to learn after you graduated, but we hope that you really like to learn after this program, so that you become a critical professional that says, well, I do really like to keep on learning because there are so many changing insights. I'm curious about that. I see a question coming in from Sarah, and Sarah asks, how are the theoretical classes given and what are the materials given? Shane, can you inform us a bit about the theoretical classes?
Yeah, so we have I'd say maybe two or three theoretical classes a week that are purely theoretical. So we have a class called Collaborate, which is mainly working on sort of what we call learning tasks. And then we have a Grow class, which is mainly discussing sort of portfolio and what we need to get done for each learning outcome. And then the other two we have Explore 1 and Explore 2. Now these classes are they're mainly designed for practical. We have them in our physiotherapy rooms, and we use the physiotherapy benches as our desks. And a lot of them are practical, but there's some classes like today, for example. I had a class in that room, and we just worked on theoretical stuff, talking about some certain lung diseases and other stuff like that. So, I think it's we have set class for theoretical classes, but then other classes we can still sit there for the full 3 hours and just do pure theoretical stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I think the most interesting thing to add to that is that we always try to work case-wise. So we call them the professional challenges. And in these cases, we challenge you to search for the knowledge, to discuss the knowledge, but also to seek for the practical skills that are needed to be able to help these patients. So despite that, we really separate the classes like anatomy and physiology and biomechanics. We try to be inclusive, and we try to ask you, all right, so this lady, 85-year-old, has difficulty walking the stairs, and she feels a bit of pain on the front side. We call that the anterior side of her knee. Could we try to figure out what the cause of that pain is and how we can maybe help her? And then there are a lot of factors that come in, both from the theoretical and the practical aspect. And that's what Momina also said. We are immediately going to start with the hands-on there as well, because there might be a stiff knee. There might be a limitation in the flexibility of that knee. So we're going to do practical skills to figure that one out immediately. But then how does a knee change over time? So what's the difference of a knee of an 85-year-old woman and the knee of a 25-year-old girl? And that's where theoretical knowledge and a bit of physiology comes in. So we try to really work from cases, and we try to make the theoretical structures inclusive on the practical one. All right, no problem, Frederica. I'll make the recording visible so you can watch it later. Very good. Okay. Is it easy to catch up and take notes on everything that we are taught, or do you easily get lost with so much information? Good question, Sarah. I'm curious, Momina, how's your experience on that excessive knowledge and that big amount of information that is thrown over you?
I think that as long as you get your preparations done before class, you already have like a foundation on that, and then you build that in class. Um, and there's a lot of like different things you do in class, but I feel like what solidifies your knowledge the most is the learning tasks you have related to those things. As for anatomy, I would highly suggest studying that yourself because it is mostly self study. There are like a bunch of different apps that I use, but one of the main ones that I use for anatomy is Complete Anatomy, and you could get that on if you have iPad or laptop, you can get it on that, and it's really I think it's really informative, and I would try yourself to keep up on the anatomical knowledge so then you understand things further rather than just doing hands-on skills but not like knowing what you're doing or what you're touching. So I think it's mainly you and how much effort you put in. And no, I don't think you get lost. Well, I'm not lost as of yet. So yeah.
Yeah, nice example. Thanks. All right, let's click on some practical matters. And the main question is how to apply. We've been discussing some of these things in the afternoon together as well. And then it was also about accommodation. There's an important thing I would like to mention, and I'm not going to stick too long on this topic because there's lots of information you can find on the site. And I would really make you aware that it's good to start in time. The difficulty always with the English stream is that you have to make sure that you register on time, but that often means that you don't have all your results yet. So when you do your final exam, then you want to admit to Fontys, but you're not sure whether you've passed on your exams, and Fontys gives you time for these possibly delayed results. So we often see students study in September not knowing for sure whether they've passed on their high school exams. And that's okay, as long as you are enlisted and as long as you've done the preparations in time. So my advice would be check on the site, make sure that you prepared early on and that you don't run in late because then you really are behind. When it comes to the institutional fees, this is what the recent information is. But again, this is where I really would like you to be aware of your personal situation, because if you're an international student, there are different rules than when you come from the European Union. That really makes a big difference in the fees you have to pay. So think about that up front, because your institutional fees are not the only cost you have, which we will see on the upcoming slide. Because as soon as you go in here, one of the main things you have to think about are the accommodations. And that was a bit of a problem last year. So like I told you, I want to be honest, and that's why I also tell you accommodation was a bit difficult. But eventually, all of these three students here have found a home. And Momina, what is your biggest tip when it comes to searching a place to live in Eindhoven?
My biggest tip is to look as early as you can. Start looking as soon as you apply. I would start looking because it's incredibly difficult. The first a month that I was here, I was staying with my friend because it's almost impossible to find housing, and I really underestimated that. But now, thankfully, I'm in student housing, but it is really difficult to acquire. So I would recommend applying for student housing as soon as you can and or start looking for housing as soon as you can.
Yeah, very good, very good. I'm glad you mentioned that. And Shane, what's your biggest advice to the students?
Um, yeah, I think it's just to what Momina said there is to be on top of it, be quick, and also to not be picky. I know everyone sort of kind of has their ideal place they want to live, and they want a nice apartment, they want a nice studio or whatever. But yeah, like I think you just have to if a room comes up in a house of six, five people, um, just take it. Because a lot of my friends I know their best friends or their closest group of friends are the people they originally lived with when they first come over here. So I'd say just don't be picky, and I also try to almost like try to network when you're over here. So I don't know if any of you are coming to the open day or the trial day in January. 2 years ago, I came there as a student looking to apply for Fontys, and that is where I met up or I found a few Irish people. I got speaking to them, and then they assured me that if I couldn't find accommodation through uh, other housing agencies or through Fontys, that they would be able to accommodate me for the time being. So I think the two biggest things are don't be picky and sort of network as much as you can and try be here as much as you can before you actually decide to move over here.
Yeah, and I haven't seen whether there are any Greek students, but I know Leonidas has a great contact in Greece. If you want some information there related to all of the topics of admission to the Fontys University. I'll share my address with you afterwards. So if there are any questions after this presentation, you can always ask me by email. I see that there are some questions popping in. Leonidas, do you maybe have any idea about any bursaries or financial support for international students?
Um, Personally, I know that you can get assistance for your tuition fees, but you just have to complete the studies in 10 years. So if you complete your studies in 10 years, then the bursary is a gift from the Netherlands government, so you don't need to repay it. It's not a loan. Other than that, you can get a healthcare insurance, and um, if your income is low, they get to send you the money back. They refund the insurance, and you're gonna need an insurance if you're going to work in Netherlands. You need a private insurance, and also if you work for more than, if I'm not mistaken, it's 35 to 40 hours per month. You can also get the assistance for the tuition fees.
Yeah, yeah. My advice always is, because you guys are coming from so many different countries, that there is not one uniform advice here. So we have a special site for that where we can actually help you out with some of these questions, or we can at least send you to an address that can provide you with the correct answer. But my answer always is, make sure that you look at your own situation and that you do not follow on this too easy. It's the same as for the minimum GPA required to graduate. There's some things Momina told me this afternoon. It's always different from every country in which you have to pass on. So in the Netherlands, we call that the HAVO. That's kind of like the high school system, which you have to have as a minimal entrance. That is what needs to be achieved when you come from outside of the Netherlands. Yeah, that's different in every country. Usually, you do not need to have some specific demands like a degree in physiology or additional knowledge on anatomy. You can study a lot, but you do have to look into what your minimum GPAs are when you are required to graduate. And of course, Lucia, the student housing is definitely not only for the foreign students; it's also for the students coming from the Netherlands. So definitely not something you have to be concerned about. Two things on this slide which I would like to add: don't only look for Eindhoven, broaden your view a bit on the small villages outside of Eindhoven, like the students already mentioned. it's not that big, so it's an easy cycle from just outside of Eindhoven to the university. And I have a lot of students who easily cycle for 15 and 20 minutes, and they don't live in Eindhoven, but they live just outside of Eindhoven. And it's still very doable with this 15 or 20 minutes of cycling to live somewhere outside. I also noticed from the students this afternoon, try not to do that much online because there's a lot of fraud going on, and it is really good if you have the contacts in here to explore them. So, like Shane says, when you come over, when you visit our open day, try to see if you can meet with some of our students and to just exchange information when it comes to this accommodation. Fontys also helps, but these places are limited, but you can trust us on that one. You have to enlist for that. Can you help me out, Momina? What was the date? What, the 1st of April, right?
Yeah, I think it's sometime in April. Oh, you should see it. I think it's on the website right now.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely there. So Fontys can help you out with that. But again, these places are limited and are only for the first year. So that means you've got housing for a year, but then when you're here, you do have to search for another spot when you want to move on. So yeah, like Momina started off, you will have to be honest about that. It's a challenge, but if you start early on and if you know the right people and you get to know the right people, then we see that everyone eventually lands in a very good way, and that these students are really known for helping each other out. So don't let that one be the choice of not coming to Eindhoven, because there are possibilities. All right. Um, this is a bit of a summary there, but I do want to point it out. Ask around, expand your search to nearby towns. Don't trust these housing agencies too much. I've heard too many stories of students who say, well, to be honest, I haven't got that much of a good contact there. So use social media. You guys are way better at that than I am. So use your channels, use your knowledge, and feel free to also ask these students for advice when you are here on the open day. Talking about that, we've tried to arrange a combination. So an open day on the 26th of January is the time where you can visit us with your family. So if you want to have a look in Eindhoven, or you just want to go here by your mom and dad, then this Saturday, this 26th of January, is the time where we are open for you and your family. If you want to see what the educational program is like, I would strongly advise you to stick around and to also be a student for a day on the day after. That is, however, only for students. So if you have the idea to be a student for a day, well, then you might have to send your dad into town or your mother into town, or if they are there both, then just give them a nice day off. But then you're a student for a day, and then you can really experience what it is like to be in our program. I see a
If I
question.
can,
Yeah.
no, sorry, I just wanted to add very quickly. I'm actually taking part in the open day and shooting for a day. Um, so I'll be there guiding hopefully a few of yous around. So uh, it's mainly just the open day is mainly just sort of introduction into the course, and like a bit more in depth of what we spoke about today about what happens over the course of 4 years. And then the student for a day is more about it's more about sort of a bit of practical in it. We do one or two examinations. We get a few students perform a gait analysis. You know, so it's a good 2 days to sort of get a real insight into not only physiotherapy and Fontys physiotherapy program as a whole.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. Good that you add that one, because it's definitely a good option. I see a question coming in. Is there an entry exam or anything of that sort? No, there's not. You just have to prove, and that's what I mentioned with the previous slide. You have to prove that you're on the level of what we require as our Dutch educational program. Yeah, the most commonly used phrase is high school, but in the Netherlands, it's a bit different, that system. So you might want to see for your program what you need to be administered to Fontys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it brings us to the end of this presentation. We've dealt with a lot of topics and we've given you a lot of information. I'll put my email address on the chat right now. So if you have any questions later on, you can always ask me. If there are any questions right now to me or to one of the 3 students, then please do so. And if not, in the meantime, well, first of all, I would like to thank you for being here. It's always a pleasure for me to see so many different people in such a conversation. I hope to see you through this open day, or maybe being a student for one day. I usually come by for a couple of minutes to tell something about the educational program. So we probably meet over there if you're here in January. I don't see any questions popping up, so we're going to end this meeting. I'm going to stop recording. Momina, Shane, Leonidas, I thank you very much, and I owe you all a package of stroopwafels. I'll bring that to you tomorrow. Thank you so much for participating, and for the rest of the students, thank you very much for being here. Have a good time, finish school, and hopefully see you next year. Bye-bye.
Have a great night.
Have a good evening. See you guys.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.